Good morning, Lee and Jay Greeson of Southeastern 16. Welcome to SEC Football Live. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this morning. The dominoes in the college football landscape never stop falling. One fell again yesterday in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Michigan's Sherrone Moore is out of a job. We'll talk about potential domino effects of that in the college football coaching landscape, maybe the portal too. We'll talk about, on the topic of coaches, Florida and Kentucky. Their coaches are coaching elsewhere in the playoff. What implications can we take away from what we see out of Will Stein at Kentucky? And, Tulane got a coaching situation too. What a weird matchup we have in Ole Miss, where Florida's next head coach is going to be coaching. It's the head coach of Ole Miss who wasn't there, except as a coordinator. So we'll see what we can learn from John Summerall's performance at Tulane. We'll talk about Heisman Trophy snubs. Is Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt going to get snubbed? We'll find out. We'll look back at history. Where have SEC guys been snubbed in the Heisman race before? We'll talk about that. We'll take your questions, your comments, your super chat, all those things. Jay Greeson, lots to talk about today. Good morning. Welcome to the show, sir.
I hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day in Zamunda, as they say in Coming to America, which is a criminally underrated. Hey,
yes.
you and I have done some shows where we work movie quotes in throughout the show. If somebody wants to come lock and loaded with Coming to America, I can speak as intelligently as the man you know better as Joe the policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama, Mr. Randy Watson. So I'm locked and loaded on a bunch of them. But there's too much to get to for me to be overly silly today.
Well, see, all this time I thought you were Lionel Joseph from Cameroon.
Well, I could have been. Could have been. And I beat Joe Lewis's ass. So, I mean, Joe Lewis may have been 136 years old, but
going to a black barbershop, by the way, very underrated.
I've done it once.
I've gone to one for.
I walked out of there with a high top
18 years.
I've had the same haircut except for 2 times in the last 35 years. I walked out of a black barbershop because I just desperately needed a haircut. It was actually on a Saturday going to Atlanta for the SEC championship game, but my hair was everywhere. Yeah. And I walked out of there with a high top fade. I look like Kid and Play. But
I need a photo, please.
No, I don't have a photo of that one. I do have a photo of this one. During the COVID, I went full-blown mullet, and it was glorious.
That we need a photo of.
Yes, I'll get you a photo of that one.
Yeah. I've gone to this. I have not gone. I started going, I think, in 2008, and I've not gone. I've never gotten my hair cut anywhere else since I set foot in this guy's shop. I mean, I laugh so hard in there, sometimes my side hurts. But anyway, the opposite of funny would be what happened in Ann Arbor yesterday. What a situation with Sherrone Moore, first of all. You start the morning making a well into 7-figure salary, coaching a Big Ten team, probably one of the 10 most coveted jobs in America. You end the day unemployed and in jail.
Add in the wrinkles of a overachieving with a relatively young team. Your only losses were against ranked teams. You have the former number 1 overall player in the country who played significant minutes and played for the most part pretty well as a freshman, as a true freshman quarterback. And now the program's left in shambles. And Chris, when we thought the coaching carousel had stopped spinning at breakneck speed, I can quote Spaceballs too, because we're going to go straight to ludicrous speed on all the moves and shakings, and it was already surreal enough. Think about the way the cosmic tumblers could click together on what Michigan could do. I've heard national shows say, my first call will be to make certain Matt Campbell has signed his contract with Penn State.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard people talk about Kalen DeBoer, Jed Fish. Hell, Would it shock any of us if Lane Kiffin has kicked the damn tires up there? His buyout's only $7 million.
Oh man, that would be an episode that I would be here for, by the way. Jay, the list of like these happen gradually. And so sometimes you don't really realize how much craziness is going on until you sit back and rewind the whole last 2 or 3 months. Like these are just like the powerhouse jobs that have been open this year. Michigan, Penn State,
Florida,
LSU. Yes. I mean, and that's not getting to Arkansas, Stanford, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, Ole Miss, like teams that have been nationally. It is mind-bending when you go and look at the places that have let go of coaches. And oh, by the way, I keep hearing a lot of, or maybe not a lot, I keep hearing Marcus Freeman to the NFL talk, specifically with the Giants. I mean, what if Notre Dame opens on top of this?
Well, I'll tell you this. If Michigan and Notre Dame are open between now and Martin Luther King Day, Vandy will be open too.
It might be. I mean, and that's what I'm like. What if, let's say that you're kicking the tires on Michigan. Are you waiting for Notre Dame, or are you taking Michigan because Notre Dame not being in a conference? I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you could look at this.
And we're starting to get folks in the chat. Michigan would be lucky to have Clark Lee, because you want to talk about a guy who's not going to follow the dominoes of embarrassment. Because look, yeah. Harbaugh's a great football coach, but that whole cheating thing felt like it got, for the most part, swept under the rug. I mean, the assistant coach, whose name's like Scooter or Chuckum or whatever his name is, or the fringe connection to the program guy, yeah, he took a brunt of it, and Harbaugh got a 10-year show cause. But when you go to the NFL and you're planning to be there for the rest of your coaching eternity, a 10-year show cause is like, hey, say you're sorry to the trash can and we'll call it even. Okay. But then this, and I don't even really want to comment on the Sherrone Moore thing, because it feels like every time I get a good idea of what this is, it then gets dirtier. And
yeah. I haven't even seen what's come out in the last 2 or 3 hours. So
it's not good. And look, I try to be jovial, and I'm happy to throw one-liners at anybody, but I do know that there are a lot of lives wrecked.
I'm with you. I don't joke about this stuff. I know it lends itself to 1,000 jokes, and I'm not going to tell you that in the past a less mature version of myself wouldn't have been open to that. But you have kids. I've got 2. You've got what, 2?
I have 2.
Yeah, and Sherrone Moore's got 3, and I think 1 on the way.
And we're going to talk about the football implications and the ripple effects of this, and that's understandable. But this word gets overused like so many other in the modern media realm, but this is a personal nightmare for so many people directly involved in that, beyond just, oh my God, we got to find a coach before the portal opens January 2nd.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even process what could happen next. And by the way, someone in the chat says, John Bogan says Joel Klatt just stated he thought Clark Lee would be the Michigan hire. I have not heard anything to support that. Check with one of my contacts this morning, who's, I'm not going to say plugged into Michigan particularly, but plugged into industry. He didn't know where they were going to go. He found. And, but what he said, and I think this is correct. I think this has been coming for a while. I think Michigan knew this had been coming for a while. So I would presume that Michigan is down the road, potentially, maybe not with a person or people, but at least with an idea of where it would like to go.
But you got to make a short list, and then you have to be prepared to expand it, because, look, time, it's like Maverick said, and top greatest enemy here is time. Because forget the bowl game. you're now going to have to find out who on staff helped Sherrone Moore keep all of these webs of lies.
Yeah,
secret,
yeah.
And you may have to clear the whole damn deck. And the portal opens in 28 days.
Let's be honest, though. If Sherrone Moore goes 12-0,
not with this.
Is this even a thing?
Yes, hell yes, it is.
You think it is? Okay.
Hell
well,
yes.
I mean, what we had for Florida basketball last year.
No.
Okay.
No.
I guess that was a little bit more complicated. This one was than that, but still, my point is sometimes you get away with stuff if you win.
They cleared him before they cut the nets down.
Okay.
I mean, I see what you're saying. If they're 12-0 and in the playoffs, but they clearly found something to anchor this to, and it blew up because in the fallout, he ended up in jail, man. I mean,
well, I think the semantics of that one were did not do it maybe on company time. That might have been a different thing, but still. But you're right. That may not be the right comparison. Point is, though, guys who win games get away with. I mean, look at Penn State under Joe Paterno and all that stuff. I mean, you get where I'm going. It was.
Hey, you're not going to get me to your side on this because. Okay. And here's why. Don't get me wrong. If you have a great coach and you can find an avenue to skirt these kind of things, that's one thing. That's point one. So Florida found an avenue that they felt comfortable exonerating Todd Golden. That tells me there's clearly another cleat to drop in the firing for cause detail.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Just what we know so far is pretty mind-blowing. Yeah.
Second thing, you also got to remember this is the state of Michigan, where they had the Larry Nassar incident and they had the Michigan State incident about 4 or 5 years ago. So all of that type of those issues play into the culture around the campus. Granted, most of the other two were at Michigan State, but you can't tolerate this, or if you find credible evidence and you allow him to continue, then you've just added an extra zero to what's already going to be a monumental lawsuit from whatever that staff person he was associated with is going to file.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a complete and total mess. But where do you think Michigan ends up going with the replacement here?
I think Jed Fish from Washington.
Okay, I could buy that.
They would be smart to kick the tires on Clark Lee. I threw somebody. I've heard this name too. David Speaks put DeBoer, Kelly, or Mullen. Look, Brian Kelly's had a whole lot of success in that region. He had a whole lot of success at Central Michigan. He had success at Cincinnati. He had success at Notre Dame. Now, does the shine come off after what happened at LSU? Maybe, but it's real easy to forget. While LSU understandably turned on him, he was still 34-14 in Red Stick. It's not like that was terrible. It just was underachieving for what LSU was spending. And Brian Kelly would also give you, where was Bryce Underwood committed before going to Michigan in the 11th hour? To Brian Kelly at LSU.
Okay. Well, Michigan Free Press, let's make sure I'm giving proper credit. Get rid of the pop-up ads. Good grief. Tony Garcia, Detroit Free Press. He lists 4 candidates. They are Jed Fish at Washington, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, Jesse Minter, Chargers defensive coordinator and former defensive coordinator for Michigan, but also was around during the sign stealing mess. So don't know if the stench of that would be preventative or not. And let's see. Yeah, and Minter got a show cause by the NCAA for impermissible recruiting. So Garcia says full-on suspension, but certainly not a hurdle. And then Kirk Signetti says it's a Hail Mary, but worth a shot. I don't think Signetti is probably leaving. So, I mean, who knows? This is –
Well, if you're going to throw Hail Marys, then that guy's not doing his due diligence. And you got to include the name Nick Saban. Because if you're going to kick tires, by God, swing for the fences. Don't just kick the tires of a Pinto. Go kick the tires of a NASCAR.
Brad Crawford at CBS has a very different list. Joe Brady, Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. Kenny Dillingham of Arizona State. Minter and DeBoer both on that one. Lincoln Riley. Hey, that's one I hadn't thought of because Lincoln Riley has allegedly been looking to get out of Southern Cal. Of course, you go to a job in the same conference. PJ Fleck. Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen would be an underrated candidate. Marcus Freeman. Brian Kelly also on that list as longer odds.
I see the only jump Marcus Freeman makes is to the NFL. And if he does it in the next 3+ weeks, dear Lord, this will be the craziest coaching carousel we've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think going from Notre Dame to Michigan with what's been frankly instability between the Harbaugh thing and this one, I don't. Unless you just think there was something in your playoff snub that's going to carry forward. And, of course, Notre Dame now gets that guarantee. I think if it's in the top 11, it is guaranteed a bid. How they got that, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, all over the place with this one. Someone says Joey McGuire. He'd be good.
Would you call Heupel amid all the controversy and turmoil in Knoxville?
Sure. I don't know that he'd be my hire, but you could do a lot worse.
You could do a lot worse.
You've got a quarterback to work with.
I know I live in the state of Tennessee and I work in sports media, but I haven't heard anything like that. I'm just spitballing as you're reading lists from guys. And David, you should be. Tennessee's got a good one. And I know he's come under fire, and I've heard blowback of he can't win the big one. Look, man, he is, and David brings up another good point. The Knowles hire is a definite upgrade for Tennessee at defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That guy knows what he's doing. That guy knows what he's doing. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Thanks.
Where do you rank the Michigan job nationally?
Top 10.
Yeah. I think that's right.
And look, we're in the South, but historically it's top 5. And but historically you can taint that argument that you could skew that Army and Navy are do they have top 5, top 10 national pedigrees? Look, the jobs that call that you have to take the phone call, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas, and then I think there are a whole lot of other programs fighting in that group, including Oklahoma, including USC, fighting to be in that next group that is not just currently good, but historically good.
Is Michigan a little, I don't know what the right word is, easier job to take now that you're going to be 2 coaches removed? You'd be the second guy from the guy that just won an Addy there?
Always. That's always the thing.
Same thing might be the case at Alabama if DeBoer leaves, right?
The most coveted job in the world, whatever they decide to either, whether Kalen DeBoer decides to leave because of the whispers or the unrest or a better opportunity, or they decide to part ways. Look, it is impossibly difficult to be the guy who replaces the guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the long-time success, but considering he was an alum and had just won a natty, reaching the bar and the lovability that Coach Kaki had in Ann Arbor, that's a tough job, even with a hand-picked replacement, because Sherrone Moore was the guy Harbaugh picked. And placement. It is unbelievably difficult. But if you get to be the guy after the guy who replaced the guy, and not since Free Guy, underrated movie, by the way. Free Guy is really good. Ryan Reynolds, amazingly talented. The opportunities there, because then the program realizes they've got to do more than just say, well, we've got coach. Welcome to the fold, Jace Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Jace Hayes, for joining the membership tier. That's the way you can support the channel, by the way. Doing that, we have multiple membership tiers that entitle you to above and beyond what you get here on the free side. So that's the best way to support the channel. That and super chats. If you leave a super chat, we'll address your comment or your question, a way to help the channel. Other ways you can help the channel, helping out those guys where you need to go when you're doing your Christmas shopping for your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance, whoever. Nashville-based fine jewelry brand built on tradition, designed for meaning, each piece handcrafted from solid 14-karat gold, natural gemstones made to measure for a perfect fit, backed by a lifetime guarantee. Every yearly company bangle is custom size, so knowing your size is the most important first step before you order. That's where the sizing kit comes in. Code SE16KIT, K-I-T, get you 100% off the sizing kit at checkout. We are also brought to you by our friends at ROKFORM, which make the world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting, SEC 25, get you 25% off your. Get the vent clip and the phone case. That'll really help you out on your car rides from your phone sliding everywhere. You'll thank me for that one later.
Chris, Sam thinks you need to add getting a yearly company gift for your side piece needs to be part of the ad rate.
Yeah, don't do that. Just buy one thing from yearly company. You can do two if like one's your mom.
My daughter wants something from the yearly company.
But wife and girlfriend, we do not advise buying for both. We do not advise having a wife and a girlfriend. That's a bad life's move. So anyway, hopefully none of you out there are doing that.
And yeah, seriously, that dude's unhireable now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do with the rest of your life if you're Sherrone Moore?
I don't know.
Guys end up eventually getting a second chance, but my goodness.
And I mean, just when Jimmy Sexton thought he could go to the yearly company and worry about his Christmas shopping with the millions he's made in the last 6 to 8 weeks, don't you know his phones are now blowing up because he's trying to move pieces as quick as he damn can.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Florida and Kentucky. John Summerall coaching Tulane at Ole Miss will be headed to Florida when he is done. Will Stein, Oregon's offensive coordinator, will be leaving Oregon to be Kentucky's head coach. What are you watching for in the playoffs with those two guys that we can take forward into maybe what we'll be getting for each of those guys, Jay?
Well, I think I'm a little more curious watching John Summerall as a Florida fan on prepping your guys for the biggest game in school history on the road in the SEC. Are they composed? Are they prepared? Look, it's an uphill battle. They're a 17.5-point underdog for a reason. This team lost to the same team by 35 2.5 months ago. So I don't think you're looking for a win. I think if you're a fan of Florida, you want to watch to see what the first quarter is. Do they compete? Are they prepared and willing to try different stuff? Are they foolish? Are they sloppy? I mean, this is the closest. He gets like a dress rehearsal against an SEC opponent that Florida's going to have to pass in the rankings to get to where Florida expects to be.
Yeah.
So, if Florida, you expect to give him more bullets to go into a gunfight with Ole Miss than Tulane's going to show up with. So the scoreboard is not what you look for. What you look for is aggressiveness, both from the players and the game plan, and even in the decision-making. Because if you're going to be able to convince your kids to fight the uphill fight that's going to be in Vaught-Hemingway, you're going to have to find ways pregame and ways in-game, which is way underrated and way underutilized, to motivate those kids in the moment where you believe they can win. And by doing that, it's one of the reasons why great basketball coaches purposely get technicals. It's one of the reasons that occasionally you think, what the hell are they doing going for it on 4th and 2 from their own 38? Well, you know what? You can then go turn around and get in the defensive huddle and look at your guys and say, I thought we could get it. Now you guys go give me the ball back. And there are a whole lot of ways that you look at his demeanor, and because the in-game stuff is what you want to explore.
Yeah.
To your question about Kentucky, for me, as a guy who pays as much attention to what happens on sidelines as I do almost as much attention, because I think the demeanor of leadership in all walks of life are so much underrated in the success of every organization. I look for the crispness and the quick start ability of Will Stein and his offense. And it is, are they thorough? Are they meticulous? Because the only way you let James Madison hang around is you turn 3rd and 6 into 3rd and 11 because your guys are sloppy. You get too cute. But here's the thing. If I'm Kentucky, I'm already thrilled with this hire because of what he's been able to mine out of the portal and convert journeyman quarterback theoretically into not only being productive, but damn well being NFL players and Heisman considerations.
You made 2 points I liked. You've already established the baseline of expectation for what you're looking for between Tulane and Ole Miss. It was 45-10 first time around. Okay. Whatever you did wasn't working there. I don't think you can do enough to close the gap completely, but are you taking chances, those kind of things? Are you putting yourself in a spot to win? I agree with that totally. You said sideline demeanor, which got me to looking up some stuff because most coordinators coach from the box. Will Stein apparently does not do that. He's on the sidelines. So you will get a chance to have a glimpse of how that goes.
I like that for 2 reasons. And in a million years, I've never reached any type of level of this, but I've coached some school ball and a whole lot of youth sports across all platforms. And I know those comparisons are nowhere close. But when given the opportunity to sit in a box and call offense, I said no, because I want to talk to my quarterback every single time he comes off the field. Every single time. What do you see? I do the same thing when I'm coaching softball. I talk to my catcher as soon as she walks off the field. What's working? What's not working? Is she hitting her spots? Because those are the kinds of conversations that you can only get in real time. I know they got headsets and I know, but the directions, because your answers come from the face as much as they come from the mouth.
Yeah.
And so if I looked at you and said, well, Chris, I really think Kalen DeBoer could be, you don't get that the same way you can get, I think Kalen DeBoer is not going anywhere. When you get to look in my face and say whatever, I'm completely good. Sam, if you think the DC needs to be in the box, as long as his linebacker coach is on the field and he communicates to his linebacker coach and they have a way to communicate to the guy who's got the green dot on his helmet saying, okay, what are they doing that we can't stop? Because I need that interactivity and that leadership. Look, man, I'm an Auburn graduate and I watched Hugh Freeze on every sideline and he might as well have been a mannequin. He could have been weekend at bleeping Bernie's. I mean, Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman might have been.
Can you do that one more time?
That's Hugh Freeze on the sideline. So
the hospital bed, maybe.
It matters. It 100% matters. And look, I commented on one of our chats earlier on the platform this week. Kalen DeBoer failed that Saturday in the Georgia Dome. Or I grew up there. I'll always call it the Georgia Dome. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did that yesterday too, by the way.
It's like Maryland is always in the ACC. I can't get over Maryland not being in the ACC. But at Mercedes-Benz Saturday, Kalen DeBoer, every time he looked up there, he's throwing his hands up. No. Coach these kids in the moments they need it most. Yes, preparation leads. If you don't prepare to succeed, if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. But in the moment, those kids need to hear that again. And they look over and you're doing this, then they're going to do this.
Yeah. I've never coached offense, anything like that. But I do like sometimes I've been on the field for games and it's just hard to see what goes on sometimes just with your lines of sight. And, you know, if you're at a particular place, your point of view is blocked by players. When you're in the press box, which is where these coaches sit, you don't have that same issue. At the same time, you do have coaches up there who can tell you things. You probably have a pretty good feel of what it looks like and what it should look like, you know, just from seeing those images, which you can get sent, you know, during the game, iPads and stuff like that. Football has gone in such a direction with analytics and things like that. And like, I respect it. It's a piece of information. It's stuff we didn't have 20 years ago. But when you were talking, I was kind of reminded of a tweet that I saw yesterday, and this is from the Major League Baseball side, but I think you'll see the parallel quickly. It was from Clint Herschel, who used to manage major league teams. And I looked it up. He said this: when I visit our minor league clubs, I don't just jump right into coaching. The first thing I do is listen and watch. I start collecting coins. Collecting coins is finding out about who the players really are. I want to learn about them. And he goes on and talks about family situations and those kind of things. That's a little bigger picture take of it. He said anybody can read a scouting report and tell you about their arm strength or their speed, but the real trust starts building when you take the time to learn about who someone really is. I do think the human part of the game, when the analytics have, I think, even the playing field, and let's be honest, you know, most people are probably all getting similar information. I do wonder if the human side of it, as you said, really comes back around to where the people who can manage that, and hey, you see it in the portal all the time, manage those situations, are the guys who are going to get ahead and stay ahead when it comes to building programs. All that to say that that's a long-winded way of saying I think that might lend some credence to your opinion on Will Stein being on the field.
I love the Will Stein hire. I love the Will Stein hire because he develops quarterbacks. And I'm not talking about developing a quarterback that comes in highly rated and then remains highly rated. That's not developing a quarterback. That is not standing in the way of a quarterback. And he also, look, the underrated superpower that Nick Saban had, everybody can talk about the way he was able to recruit. The underrated superpower Nick Saban had was he was an immaculate talent evaluator. Because a lot of people don't remember, for all of the lofty draft picks, and a whole bunch of them were 5 stars that everybody wanted, but Saban wanted him too. He also wanted Marcel Darius, who became the number 2 overall pick and really should have been the MVP when Alabama beat Texas in the national championship game all those many years ago. Marcel Darius came out of high school as a 2-star. And you know what? When he committed to Alabama, he picked Alabama over like Troy and a couple others. Now, when you commit to Nick Saban in Alabama, Rivals has a way of making you from 2 stars to 4 stars.
Yes, I've seen it happen.
Because look, and
if Nick Saban likes you, then we should.
It's not wrong or stupid, because if Nick Saban wants you, then you're probably damn well at least a 4-star.
Yeah. Well, and Saban also had the edge of like he had relationships with a lot of these kids. It's like it's been said, like you can't really jump on a kid and coach in that way until they have a relationship with you and trust you in that way. Well, like if you just go out and yell at kids that don't know you, it's not going to go well.
He had a verbal contract from the living room that he looked everybody in the face sitting there and saying, if you come to me and become a starter for a year, I'll make you a millionaire. Now, Saban was also wise enough to realize the modern system encourages those kids to demand $1 million now. And he didn't want to deviate from his contract because, look, his contract was the best one since Bear Bryant was making certain he could sign 100 kids per signing class. Because Bear Bryant famously said, they may never play for me, but if I sign them, they'll never play for Auburn. So
anything
I don't
else?
disagree with that. I know Will Stein has not had head coaching experience, but if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm jacked right now. I mean, you went from, granted, the longevity allowed Mark Stoops to become the Phillip Rivers of SEC coaching. He is an unbelievable stat compiler. And so he's going to walk away there with a whole lot of records. But Will Stein is infinitely more exciting, infinitely more relatable, and has an infinitely higher ceiling than anything that Kentucky football's had since maybe Rich Brooks. And that's before we added a hell of a lot more star power to this league.
I'm looking at the AP top 25 right now because I just think where schools have found success with coaches, it's all over the place. Like Indiana, they hired Kurt Cignetti, head coach at a group of 5 in James Madison. Georgia hired Kirby Smart, had just been a coordinator. Ohio State, Ryan Day was a coordinator at OSU immediately before he took the job. I don't think he'd been a head coach.
No, and then remember it had the whole tainted Urban Meyer covering up for his mentor's grandson, nephew, whoever, Earl Bruce's kid on the staff who had off the field run-ins with his girlfriend, or no, it was some assault allegations against his wife. About physical abuse and
next go ahead. Let me let you finish your thought and then I'll get to mine.
Well, there is no Dan Lanning hadn't been a head coach and he's crushed at Oregon.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next. Joey McGuire was an offensive coordinator, assistant head coach at Baylor. Lanning was a DC at Georgia, number 6 Ole Miss. There's your one guy that had been a Power 5 head coach, but I would say he'd been a failed Power 5 head coach that got his stuff together in a group of 5. A&M Elko, Power 5 head coach at Duke, but an underrated, a kind of an under-the-radar one. Venables at Oklahoma, 8. DC at Clemson. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, DC there before he got the job. And Mario Cristobal, who'd been it had some success at Oregon. I think it underachieved a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's not. You would kind of think the list of guys that are head coaches at powerhouses were guys that had an extended track record of winning at Power 5 type schools. Currently, that's just not the case. I think the lesson here is you find the guy who's right, who knows the situation, knows the landscape, knows how to deal with it, and can move you forward.
You also have got to find a guy who is connectable in the modern realm.
Yes. That might be the biggest thing of all of it. Like, maybe we may live in an era where you might throw out all the history and some of those other things, because I'm typically pretty conservative when I come to stuff like that. I'm like, okay, to me, your best predictor of a guy who can be a good head coach is a guy who's done a good job and won as a head coach. More often than, and the bigger the school, the better. But let's look at some of these guys that are washing out too. Brian Kelly had been a coach at a top 10 program before he went to LSU, did not work up to the standard LSU wanted it to work. Let's go back a few years for Florida. Dan Mullen had been a head coach in the SEC and had won games at a place that typically doesn't win. I would. Here's another thing on Mullen. I would now challenge the narrative that maybe it didn't work for Dan Mullen at Florida, because you look at his record compared to the other coaches. Dan Mullen looks pretty good now in hindsight.
But I think we've left out the best example of the importance and priority that connectability to not only the kids, not only the fans, but the modern culture and rules and what's at your disposal. Dabo Swinney went from being no worse than number 2 in the country behind Nick Saban.
That's true.
To now being a guy that I don't even know how many phone calls did Dabo Swinney get in the craziest coaching carousel of my lifetime?
I mean, let's be honest. If Nick Saban's not around and he's the greatest head coach of all time, Dabo Swinney, for probably at least a 5 or 6 year period, is probably the most coveted head coach in college football.
Yes, and Alabama was completely content and planning on Dabo Swinney to come back over to his alma mater after whenever Saban left.
Yeah.
And now, even if DeBoer leaves, Alabama's not calling Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, well, okay, if you're Michigan, you could say, okay, in the search right now, we'll guarantee you get Dabo Swinney. Are you taking that, or are you taking the field?
Michigan's in a different spot because
but you see what I'm getting at.
Michigan's in a different spot.
Redo that for Florida, Notre Dame, any of them.
I don't. That's such a great question. If you're a Florida fan, would you rather have Dabo or John Summerall? Because I'll tell you this as an Auburn fan, I'd rather have Alex Golesh than Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, and I can see why. I don't know that I agree with it, but I can understand it. I don't know what to do with Dabo Swinney right now. I don't think you just throw out everything he's done as a college football coach, winning natties at a place that had not won one other than that 1980, which was kind of a one-off. But at the same time, they were loaded for bear last year, and it did not happen. Not even close.
And see, Sam brings up a great point that it's not necessarily NIL that killed Clemson. It's losing his DC. He's lost a slew of his coordinators.
Yeah.
I mean, who just had Virginia playing for a spot in the playoff? It was Tony Elliott.
Who was his OC. Yeah.
But look, in this modern era, we as fans can lament, long ago, the days when they played for the logos and the love of the game and the pageantry and Keith Jackson, oh, Nelly, bumble, fumble, lumble. I mean, all that's gone. And if you're now on a tier with the military academies on how many portal kids you take, you're doing this wrong. And the example I've always used is, what if I said, you know what? I hate electronics. So I'm going to try to be a newspaper reporter without a laptop. So I'm going to go cover an event. Then I'm going to drive back to the office, use my hard desk computer because I hate laptops. and don't believe in the internet. Well, you know what? Everybody else in my profession is using the internet legally. So I'm at a disadvantage, and my newspaper's at a disadvantage.
Well, that's a little different. I think the underlining principle why he did not want to use the portal is I know my players here. I have a reputation with them. Portal is speed dating. It's the same reason Clark Lee didn't want to do it at Vanderbilt. But and that's the thing. He learned some. I guess they learned some shortcuts because let me tell you, chemistry's not been a problem in that program the last couple of years. And boy, they have used the portal as well as anybody. Now, they did have some, like a lot of the guys that Clark Lee brought in were from that New Mexico State side of things, where you brought in their old head coach and their old OC and Tim Beck. And so you probably could filter for that ahead of time. So maybe that's not apples to apples. But by the way, that's not to say you're wrong about it. I'm just saying I see where he's coming from. The pivot hasn't been made, which brings me to a point. Hey, if you're Michigan, are you looking at Tony Elliott a little bit, man? Because when they gave him a little bit to play with in the portal, they had a really good year. And you read the stuff about that guy. Do you know his backstory?
He's Bill Elliott's son, right?
Close, but not quite. I'm serious. Read it. It is. I did not know this until a couple of weeks ago. His parents got killed in front of him when he was 9. Had to, got sent all over the place. It's just been a self-made man. And, back to the Clemson coordinator conversation, when Tony Elliott was at Clemson, they had it rolling. If I'm Michigan, I'm saying, hey, look, we got a guy in Tony Elliott who's highest of integrity from what people say about him. That's a pivot you want to make after Sherrone Moore. You got Bryce Underwood saying he sticks around. I don't know, man. I gained a lot of respect for Tony Elliott this year. It's interesting that I don't see his name on a lot of these lists, and that's probably because his record at Virginia was not so hot the first few years. I think I'm kicking the tires on that one, especially with the ACC being in the predicament that it's in, if I'm Michigan.
That's fair.
I mean, it is a heartbreaking story. I don't think I did it justice, but read it for yourself. I have automatic respect for anybody that has come from where he has come from and made himself into the person that he is with the success that he has had, because he got nothing handed to him.
All right. Not to sound like President Jed Bartlett in the early days of West Wing. What's next?
What is next is Heisman discussion. And you brought this up, so I'm going to let you start. I think you phrase it with the looming snub of Diego Pavia for the Heisman. I don't know that I'd quite go there yet, but it could be.
Oh, I've already on my FanDuel account. I'm not saying I bet a mortgage payment on it, but my son will have a better freshman year of college next fall if Diego Pavia wins the Heisman.
Oh, so you put some money down in case?
Yes. No,
which I don't think is dumb. Have you seen the straw polls like at the Athletic and places? It looks to me like it's kind of too close to call between Pavia and Mendoza.
Getting plus 600 money on Diego on what feels like trying to win 2 of 3 coin flips feels really good.
Yeah.
And look, man, I typed this in the chat earlier. If Arch Manning had Diego's stats, Arch Manning would be a unanimous Heisman pick.
You're not wrong. I never thought about it that way, but you're not wrong.
Discussed earlier this week, if Notre Dame had Vandy's resume, they're the 5 seed.
Yeah, I mean you're probably right. So you think was that a dart throw because the odds were so good?
Yeah.
Or was that a Jay thinks Pavia is going to win it?
Both.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think he's going to win it, but there's no way I'm betting even money on, or even shaded money on Fernando Mendoza when if you start looking at the numbers,
they're very pedestrian, which doesn't make him a bad player.
No, and he may be he will be unless your Titans get a number 1 pick and don't trade it, he will probably be the number 1 pick coming into the April draft if a team with 1 is coveting a quarterback. But no, you can be a great player, and man, I've got a list of dudes of a whole lot of great players who got jobbed out of a Heisman, but I don't know how many I have who are going to get jobbed out of a Heisman as badly in a statistical mismatch because of what the award. I've got a few what the award was, but now if your team, unless you've got the unbelievably unique storyline of Travis Hunter, if your team is not a playoff team, they view that they view it too much in terms of team success. And look, in the macro, quarterbacks have always gotten too much credit and too much blame. Comes with the job, comes with the position. It is what it is. But team success for a quarterback, look, if Dan Marino had fallen to somebody other than the Dolphins, we don't know. If Terry Bradshaw had been on the Bengals instead of the Steelers, with all the pieces they added around him in the 70s, Terry Bradshaw's just that funny redneck dude from Cannonball Run and Failure to Launch.
Maybe this is an unfair question. Well, let's say you swap quarter, and it is kind of an unfair question because Fernando Mendoza is not the guy you probably recruit to run Vanderbilt's offense. But if you switch places, is Indiana undefeated with Diego Pavia as its guy?
Question.
I think it is too. Do you think that Vanderbilt is 10-2 with Fernando Mendoza as its guy?
I do not.
And see, I don't either. I think there's at least another loss and maybe 2. And I don't know why when we put these things out, this drives me crazy every time I see it. When you see quarterbacks compared in their numbers, how many times do they leave out rushing yards? And the stat that I would like to know is like how many third downs did Diego Pavia convert on his own? Because that number was off the charts. And third and longs in particular. Sometimes you just need a guy to step in and make the plays he should make. Diego Pavia was special because he was a guy that stepped up and made plays nobody else in the country was going to make. And that, in my mind, is why he should win the Heisman.
Well, I understand the moving of the chess pieces. I've tried to look through this through the prism that I personally call the trade phone. If Indiana if the trade was on the table for Mendoza to Vandy for Pavia, who says no first? Because I bet a bottom dollar it's Clark Lee.
Yeah, I know Vanderbilt says no.
Vanderbilt hangs the phone up on Indiana. Kurt Cignetti's going to debate that.
Yeah. And again, it's not exact because of offensive systems. They're different. Pavia, I mean, his running is a feature of what they're doing. Or sometimes it's not, and he does it anyway. But, by the way, Bo brings Marcel Reed into the conversation. Yeah, Marcel Reed probably deserved a little bit more consideration than he got.
I think.
Yeah, he had some bad games late, but he also did a lot of good stuff.
Well, the biggest Heisman moment he had was that Friday of Thanksgiving weekend in their only loss. And that matters. And it's also in the taste and the viewpoint. I think Marcel Reed has overachieved beyond his skis, especially when you add in the factor that Le'Veon Moss has missed most of the year.
Yeah.
But I also think there are a whole lot of folks who are going to weigh it more heavily on the first half of South Carolina than what he did in the second half of South Carolina.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was one of the reasons they were behind so much, but he was also the reason they came back and won, or one of the reasons.
I would vote for Marcel Reed before I'd vote for Julian Sayin.
Yeah, I think I might too. Say when you've got, well, I mean, and you can say the same thing about A&M. They had some elite receivers. Now, I don't think anybody had more elite receivers than Julian Sayin had, but just to parse it a little bit. By the way, this is a good point. GBO Kyle Beach. Tennessee produces some of the best quarterbacks, Marcel Reed, Ty Simpson, and hopefully George McIntyre. Man, what is in the water around Nashville? Think about this for a minute. Marcel Reed played his high school ball a mile from Vanderbilt's campus. Your next guy at Vanderbilt, Jared Curtis, played ball in the city. Ty Simpson played at Martin Westview, which is 2.5 hours west of here, I think. A hard place to get to. I've been to Martin before. And probably some dudes coming up in Chattanooga too.
Well, there are 2 Chattanooga kids on the depth chart already, unless they with the news of the Curtis kid, one from Baylor, one from Macaulay at Vandy currently, including Will Muschamp's son.
Yep.
The current Baylor quarterback's headed to go play for Jeff Brom at Louisville. And there's a little fella named Marshall Manning about to be a freshman at Baylor School here in Chattanooga.
Well, and I hear, I hear from people on the west side of the state here that the younger Simpson's going to be better than the older one. So file that one away too, the one that's quarterbacking there now.
Which the reference to Marshall gets us back to the topic of if Pavia gets snubbed, he's going to be, in my mind, on the short list of former SEC players. I'm not going to say the best players that didn't win a Heisman. I am going to say the players who got robbed of a Heisman.
Yeah, where do you start? Because we both have had some thoughts on that. Give me your biggest snubs.
If we go back 45 years, because I think, let's start with Marshall's dad. Peyton Manning got hosed, got completely and totally hosed because ESPN ran with, and look, there's still people pissed off about this. I hear it, if not once a week, certainly once a month. But the double snub here was Peyton got robbed by a narrative. And yes, Charles Woodson was a great player. And Charles Wooden had an unbelievable highlight moment with that one-handed interception against Ohio State leading into the voting. But it felt cool to talk up and vote for a defensive player, especially one that was headed towards being in the championship game. But then in the next year or two, they gave the damn thing to Ron Dane, who was terrible, and it was a career achievement award when the biggest argument against Peyton was it's not a career achievement award. So, and then, I mean, there are a handful. Look, Herschel won a Heisman.
Might have won it in the wrong year.
Yeah, Herschel could have very well won 3 Heismans.
Yeah.
And his best single season, look, we'll never see this again. In 1980, Herschel ran for 1,600 plus yards on a team that won the national championship, winning 12 games. Yes, we're going to see somebody run for 1,600 plus yards. But listen to this stat. Herschel was so dominant, Buck Bellew, in Georgia's national championship season, threw 77 passes.
Jeez.
All year. All year.
Guess who was number 2 to George Rogers in 1980? Hint, it's not Herschel Walker.
Well, at that point in time, the bias was we don't give it to a freshman.
Yes.
And that was a bias that leads me to another short list snub. But who was number 2? I don't want to leave our watchers in a
Hugh Green at Pitt, defensive line.
Hey, oh my God, he was a dude though.
Yeah.
He was a mother. Because, all right, if I'm going to go sequentially, if we saw this season now, he would have won the Heisman in the modern era over just about everybody else. Heisman snub number
he
2.
Being who?
Heisman snub number 2, Derek Thomas in 1980.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
He had 27 sacks in 11 games, friends.
I don't even think he here's the thing. I don't think Derek Thomas ever got the recognition in his time for college that like Cornelius Bennett and a lot of dudes that played at Alabama around that time did.
Now, I will say this. The greatest defensive season we've seen from a college football player in the modern era happened in the greatest single season that we've seen from any player in college football history, because he lost it to Barry Sanders.
Yeah, Barry Sanders was the best running back who's ever lived.
Well, and he had 3,400 yards from scrimmage back when you only played 12 games. You do the math.
Yeah.
The next we go, and I'm probably skipping over some folks. The next we go to 97, and Manning got jobbed, 100%. He was the best player in the country. He's the best prospect. That he did not do anything to diminish that. Really, you can make an argument that ESPN's campaign promoting Woodson and the unbelievable quip that Steve Spurrier threw out that you can't spell citrus without UT really were the only two big detriments that derailed his candidacy.
Well, and Woodson did some stuff that year, like 7 picks. Yes. That's pretty impressive. But like his all-purpose numbers weren't like, he had 14 touches for 246 yards and 3 scores. And he was a great punt returner too. Like, I get it if your case is we're taking the guy that did the most things on the football field. Okay. Yeah, he gets that. But I think the thing that hurt Manning too was probably that Florida game.
Yes.
I'm not saying that should have cost him that, but that contributed too. Because I think he threw 5 picks in that one. But did a lot of other stuff the rest of the time also. And by the way, that was a time when like the interception and touchdown numbers, you know how a guy now will throw 40 and 10. Peyton was 36 and 11 that year at a time where I don't think a lot of people were as efficient throwing the ball as he was.
And they weren't SEC then, but they're SEC now. We'll now jump forward to 2004. Adrian Peterson ran for 1,925 yards and 15 touchdowns in 2004. And now he battled injuries each of the next 2 years, so he didn't win a Heisman. But that's one of the best seasons you'll see. And we were still under the guise of a lot of voters looked at it and went, well, he's just a freshman. He'll have multiple opportunities. We can vote for him later. It's the Herschel Walker ripple effect.
Yeah. And that's when Matt Leinart won it that year. Southern Cal was considered the premier program at the time. That had something to do with it too.
Agreed.
And by the way, Leinart had Reggie Bush on that team too, who would win it, I think, the next year. Aaron Rodgers finished 9th that year, by the way, at Cal.
Okay.
2 spots behind Jason Campbell of Auburn.
Well, sorry about that. Hit the wrong button.
Mine, one of mine, and maybe this is a career pick rather than like should have won it individual seasons, but I always thought Darren McFadden at Arkansas.
Yes.
If you're making a list of like 5 best players that ever played in the SEC on offense that didn't win the Heisman, I think he's there beyond much doubt. Now, the thing that hurt McFadden a little bit too is they had help. They had 2 other backs that would play in the NFL, and Felix Jones and
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis, yeah. which was pretty incredible. But I'd have to look at those. Gosh, he was there, what, 05? Was 05 his last year?
Feels right.
Yeah, and that was the Reggie Bush year. Wait a minute, he wasn't in the top 10 that year. No, you know what? He played later. Let me go 07.
Okay.
Yeah, he was runner-up to Tim Tebow, which was a weird one because Tebow, I think Florida was 8-4 that year. Like, that was an off-the-map pick because usually you don't see a guy from a team that's just kind of underwhelming win the Heisman. But of course, Tebow did so much, not just passing the ball, but running it, that probably won the day. Colt Brennan, by the way, was third for Hawaii.
Yeah, but he put up numbers in this day and age that would turn everybody's head.
I think isn't he still the all-time passing leader for yards in NCAA history? If he's not, he's close.
It wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, again, not SEC at the time. The conversation about best players, at least in the current SEC, Vince Young was a mother, brother.
Oh my goodness. That national title season was something. That I still think that USC Texas game is the best college football game I've ever seen.
Well, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I could throw out a handful of others because the kick six is still in existence.
Yeah, the kick six was maybe the craziest, most memorable walk it off ever. And that's part of the game, right? That I'm not going to say that's an unfair pick, but like Texas USC, you watched that game, you were on the edge of your seat the whole time, and it was for everything.
No, it was for everything. No, I get it, but we also know where I'm vested. So, I mean, and dear man, after the last 5 years I've had, just give me sir, can I have some more gruel, please? Can I have some more gruel? Yeah. I'm like an orphan at a Charles Dickens London home for wayward boys. Gruel, please. Gruel.
Well, let's hope it doesn't continue. Here's what, and this is one that I really had circled. Somebody pointed it out in the chat. Troy Smith won the Heisman in 06. McFadden was runner-up. Troy Smith that year threw for 2,542 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 picks, didn't really run the ball. McFadden was 284 for 1,647, 5.8 yards a carry, 14 scores, also returned kicks and caught some passes. And I think because 07 was McFadden's last year, that might have been one of those, well, he'll get another chance at it next year in the eyes of the voters, and didn't get it because, of course, the next year went to Tim Tebow. But that strikes me as and maybe with the benefit of hindsight, but I think at the time this was in the air too. That feels like one of the worst selections we've seen in our lives.
Well, it is. And it kind of rolls us into the different narratives that take hold. We talked about the unwillingness to vote for freshmen. And then we talk about the escapable plausibility of, well, if this guy's coming back, he's got an opportunity. Leads me to my next one. We became reluctant to vote for a previous winner once we rightly did away with, we're not going to vote for a freshman. Because Johnny Manziel should have 2. His second year was better than his first. He just didn't have the Alabama highlight.
Well, that was the Jameis Winston year. AJ McCarron was – Manziel finished 5th that year.
And a big part of that was because –
well, it might have been a little Johnny Manziel fatigue too. That would be part of it. I mean, he got a lot of run at that time. God, Manziel rushed for 1,410 yards in 2012.
Yes.
Holy smokes! I knew it was a lot. I didn't remember it being that. The next year, he just traded some of on the ground next year he throws for 4,114 and rushed for 759. That was also the era when we were getting there where like nobody could stop anybody too. But not that really. And he ran for 21 touchdowns as a freshman.
And half of them were in a Scooby-Doo Halloween costume.
I'd forgotten that one too. Yeah, let me see who else I had down here. We went through Walker. Rex Grossman at Florida was one. I'd kind of forgotten about that one too. That would have been right around the turn of the millennium.
Yeah, I was thinking
01 maybe. Yeah, okay. He lost Eric Crouch. And again, like the Leinart thing, that's when Nebraska was probably the biggest thing going in college football. Crouch that year, that was when Tom Osborne, those guys was there, and they were still running the option. Crouch threw for 1,510 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks, and ran for a ton, I'm sure. I'm trying to find it. Ran for 11-15 and 19 scores? Caught one, too. Grossman was like in that super efficient, Steve Spurrier era where he would go through that thing where he'd rotate quarterbacks. But I think Grossman was so good that year, he didn't much come off the field unless they were blowing someone out. Grossman didn't run for anything. He also had 17 picks, so there was that.
Well, Diego Pavia is going to have every bit as strong an argument as maybe anybody since Peyton.
Yeah, I think it's in my mind, if I'm voting, he's the guy. The stats, I think he's got that. The impact on your program, they were nothing when he got there. The plays, I mean, he made so many plays that I don't think anybody in the country was making besides him. All right, I think we've run out of gas here. See if we got any more comments, super chats, anything on the way out. By the way, I think I'd kind of like to see and I guess they do this on defense. They select a player of the year, but maybe a defensive Heisman would be appropriate at some point. David said he looked at the 2003 Heisman voting. What a class. That would have been, by the way, good place to do this. Go to collegefootballreference.com and they will give you the top 10. Jason White won it that year over Larry Fitzgerald. That was probably another one that should have won it but didn't. Eli Manning was third, followed by running back Chris Perry at Michigan, Darren Sproles at Kansas State, one of your all-timers, Matt Leinart, one of your best all-time quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers at NC State, Mike Williams, receiver, Southern Cal, Ben Roethlisberger at Miami of Ohio was ninth, and B.J. Simons. That's when Texas Tech was running those, I think, the Mike Leach offenses, and just everybody in that offense was putting up numbers. But, yeah, that was an all-timer. Jay Greeson, any parting thoughts on our way out here?
None other than telling you folks you are tremendous in the chat, and we enjoy the interaction as much as standing up here and speechify, and I hope I didn't get too overly wordy. Yeah, good show today. Really enjoyed it. I think we could go another hour if we had to, but we won't. We'll let you guys get on with our days as we'll get on with ours. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your week. For Jay Greeson, I'm Chris Lee. You are watching Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel.